Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Beverly. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Brown. I'm here with Mr. Jeffrey Mullen and Mr. Nick Gray, my fellow Zoning Board of Appeals members. We're here to open the substantive portion of the hearing with regard to the application of USC LLC for a comprehensive permit related to development at 728 Randolph Ave in our fair town. And I believe the application was filed on September 2nd of 2021, but the hearing was continued several times. And that's why this is the first substantive hearing. I believe, Mr. Freeman, we've never had the pleasure. It's nice to meet you. And I think I will begin by turning it over to you with anything that you'd like to say.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Brown. And for the record, Peter Freeman of Freeman Law Group representing the applicant. And from our team, we do have here with us this evening, I don't see Mr. Celebrity's face, but he's here listening, and if necessary, can answer questions. He is the principal of the LLC entity. Our engineer is Deb Keller from Merrill Engineering, and she is here. And our architect from MZO Group is Andy Zaleski. He, if not here now, but he will be. So in a nutshell, our presentation would be as follows. I will just lead off with some of the background jurisdictional questions and a few descriptive comments about the project. And then I will turn it right over to Deb Keller to go over the site plans and explain what you should have before you, the application plans that were submitted. And then last but not least, the architectural plans and basic design concept from our architect. So from my viewpoint, the application includes all of the things that are required. The jurisdictional requirements, as you know, and I'll just go over them briefly. There are three elements based on the 40B regulations. One is to basically have site control, and we have that. It's owned by the applicant. The next is to have a project eligibility letter to show that you are eligible to receive funding from a state or federal subsidizing program. We have that through Mass Housing, their New England Fund program, and the project eligibility letter that was submitted is dated July 19th, 2021. And then thirdly, that the applicant shall be, in this case, a limited dividend organization, which simply means that the applicant has agreed and will agree to limit its dividends as per the 40B regulations and the regulatory agreement that will be signed with Mass Housing under the New England Fund program. So the applicant meets all of those check marks, and they're therefore eligible. They have standing to move forward. The one thing that I'll jump ahead that I won't go over tonight unless you'd like to, but in past projects of mine, including one that I've been working on with you folks in Milton, talking about the waivers, the first night is usually not that helpful. So they're certainly included in our package of application materials. But that's the one thing that I, have not planned to go over tonight, although certainly we can respond to any questions on anything that you all have. So the project is a for sale home ownership project, 40 units in a building that is obviously depicted in the plans. 25% of the units will be affordable, so-called, quote unquote, to folks earning up to 80% of area median income. The site is a little over, I believe, 1.5 acres, but there's sewer and it's well situated. I think it's about 300 feet from the building to basically Randolph Ave. I'll just say for the record that we are aware of a letter sent in by Attorney McKellery, I think it is, on behalf of the owner of 718 Randolph Ave. We certainly will go over those things with her. I haven't spoken to her yet, although I know her. We certainly believe that we can address any concerns that she may have on behalf of her client. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Deb Keller to present the plans.
Thank you, Peter. Again, Deb Keller with Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. Is it possible, Beverly, for me to share my screen?
Yes. Yep.
Share. maybe, let's see, let's slide this over. That looks better. Hopefully you guys, everyone can see the first sheet
You know,
title.
Deb,
No.
we had it for a minute, and then now
Oh.
we've got your
Okay.
background.
There we go. I thought it was on the other screen.
There we go.
Awesome. So starting off, Peter mentioned the property is located at 728 Randolph Ave. The property itself is approximately 1.6 acres as described. I'm going to flip to the next page. Existing conditions. The property currently consists of an existing single-family home with an outshed. There is sewer and water in Randolph, which will service the proposed project. Currently, the existing home is serviced by, we found record information of a septic system on site. Water does tie in down to Randolph Ave. The driveway again is accessed from Randolph, comes up, is shared with the adjacent property at 718. Up to this point, the driveway is paved and it transitions into an gravel driveway, which continues out to a gravel turnaround driveway area supporting the existing single-family home on the site. As you can see, there are some ledge outcrops on the property. Other than that, it is primarily wooded with some moderate topography. The high point is in the central portion of the property. The rear portion slopes towards the east, and the front portion slopes towards Randolph Ave. Moving along, the basic site layout, as mentioned, it is a 4-story, 40-unit residential structure located here that's hatched in gray. It with a drive-under garage. So again, we're accessing from Randolph Ave, coming up the driveway. Driveway from Randolph Ave up to the midpoint here would be, I apologize, all the way through up to our surface parking here. The driveway will be widened to 18 feet. Currently now is 12 feet existing. So we are widening to the north to widen the driveway, as well as provide a 4-foot sidewalk along this area coming up to our surface parking. So we have the driveway coming in, and we're providing 39 parking spaces surface in this parking area here, as well as an additional 35 parking spaces in a drive-under garage below grade of the structure. We do provide a dumpster. We have buffers along the parking area. As mentioned, the structure is approximately 300 feet away from property line to Randolph Ave. So it is set back into the property. Briefly going through, we are the goal here on the existing driveway here, knowing that we do need to maintain access to the abutting property. The existing grades are being maintained up through and just past the shared portion of the driveway here, where we have a high point, and then pitching it back into the site, into the main portion of the site. So grading only in here to get the 6-foot widening and the sidewalk along this portion of the driveway. Coming into the site again, grading, trying to match topography to the extent possible. The structure is basically located in a low spot in the site, so that the drive-under garage minimizes excavation, keeping the surface parking area to the first elevation grade. We have some subsurface stormwater under the main portion of the parking lot, as well as a small rain garden over near the drive under a garage entrance here. And utilities, as mentioned, water, sewer, and electric will all be underground and provided through the driveway access to the residential building. I'm going to skip just over to landscaping. We are trying to focus on buffering along the property line here to the north to screen out the parking area, which can be coordinated. We have a small section over here sort of illustrating that the parking lot will be slightly lower in grade from the abutting property lines, and we would be adding landscaping at the top to maximize screening to the property. I think that in general touches on all aspects of the project. I'm not sure if Andrew is here to maybe touch base on architecture yet.
If he's not here, I could just refer the board to the description of the property, the narrative that we included. We included it with a Pell application to the state as well. Basically, the design concept, how it fits into the land, and we think does so nicely, including that underground garage to take advantage of the top. The only thing, perhaps, since I don't want to attempt to share screen, but Deb, if you either on the same set or could go to the building plans, perhaps you could just go through them slowly, not necessarily with any explanation.
Sure.
So that the members and any members of the public, can see them.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. So here's the architectural package submitted with the submittal, illustrating the 4 stories with the garage under. Again, this would be the garage entry, showing the 35 parking spaces. I apologize, I didn't mention we have 2 handicap spaces in the garage and 1 additional on the surface, in the surface parking, to account for the required handicap spaces for the site. Second would be, so these 2 entryways are the 2 entrances to the building. You see here at the first story elevation with the parking, so just for reference. So you would come into the lobby. You have a main central hallway accessing each unit for each floor as you go up. So moving up the building, same type of footprint, roof, and elevations. So this would be facing parking lot. This would be facing the access road. And these would be the 2 side elevations to the north face. And this is the south face of the building where you have the drive under garage and a section through the building.
Thank you, Deb, for going through that.
Sure.
I was just looking for, we have not quite 2 parking spaces per unit, but 1.85, I believe, is the ratio. We have 35 garage spaces.
Yes.
In the basement of the structure with 39 spaces on a landscape surface parking area. So just to point that out. And in a nutshell, that is our presentation. We think with the still existing housing need in Milton, that this is another project that will serve that need and help Milton achieve the goal of the 10%. And that it will speak to a market that there's a dire need of, certainly in Milton and all over the place. Folks who are working folks, but don't earn enough money to pay for the prices in Milton or probably anywhere else these days. And so the affordable prices are critical. And in this case, it will help 10 families be able to own their own home. So we'll stop with that. As I said, any questions that anybody has, we're happy to answer. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Thank you, Ms. Keller. I guess first I would ask my fellow board members if they have any questions. Mr. Mullen?
Yes, I'm interested in the shared driveway. Can you talk a little bit about that? Who shares it? Who has rights in it? What are the rights for?
Well, just a little bit, sure. A butter, and I mentioned Miss McKettrick's letter. I think I mispronounced the letter earlier, the name earlier, with apologies. But she does mention that in her letter. We don't believe that there's any issue of overburdening. The right-of-way is something that even her letter acknowledges. It's not clear in any way that case law would support that there's no overburdening. That is the way that her client apparently accesses their property. The improvements that are being made by our project would, if anything, improve the access for the Driscoll property. And the details of what's happening, at least briefly, were described by Deborah Keller, and of course they show on the plan. So that's basically the situation in terms of that right away.
I'm sorry, my question was, what are the rights in the driveway? Who has the rights to use it? Is it a shared driveway so that same people get the right to use it? Does somebody have the right in another area to use it? Is a part of the driveway not on the premises? I just want to understand some basics about what we're really talking about.
Sure, Rob, you can step in and correct me if I'm wrong, or Deb, if you're aware of it than I am from the plan. But the right of way is basically shared. There's no question that 718 has the right to use it. It's a shared right of way. I think is responsive to your question, Mr. Mullen. And as I say, it's not mutually exclusive, and nothing that we're doing, in our opinion, would interfere with the use that the owners of 718 and others may have.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to have some documentation on this. It looked to me like the right of way is actually benefiting the property owner to the south as well. And does the owner of the premises have the right to use that? It looked like a wider right of way. Or are there two rights of way?
No, to clarify, Deb Keller, so you do have the right of way. Half of it runs along the property of 736, the southern property, and the other, so that's the 12 feet that you see here, which is a part of their driveway. And then the other 12 feet is on the subject property and continues up and provides access to the subject property, single family home, as well as 718 turns and their driveway comes this way. So we're not altering any of the right of way located on 736. So that access would be maintained, and there would be no blocking of them using anything in that front driveway area. So that would be maintained.
Does the applicant have the right to use the portion of the right of way that's on 736?
Yes, I can certainly provide to you those documents as you asked for. Sure.
And does 736 have the right to use the portion of the right of way that's on the premises?
I believe so. I believe it's reciprocal. I'll get those for you. We can certainly submit them for the next hearing.
So the way to understand it, it's one right of way that's shared between the two property owners that are adjacent, and then there's a third party, the Driscolls to the north, that have the right to use it. Is that how I should understand this?
Yes.
And does the property owner to the north have the right to use 736's right of way as well?
Without double checking, I'm not sure. When you say that to the north, is there a street address identified with that?
Looks like it's 718.
Well, yeah, 718 is the property, the Driscoll property. So
Yeah,
yes,
okay. And when the property is built out, is the driveway, I know that Ms. Keller said that the driveway was going to be widened 6 feet. But is the completed condition of the driveway also going to be using the piece of the right of way that's on 736?
The 18 feet that we're proposing for the driveway for the project does not include the driveway width that's on the 736 property.
So if I was traveling northbound on Randolph Avenue and I was headed to the Driscoll home, I could use a piece of the 736 right of way and then cross the traffic to get home. Is that how that's going to work?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by.
I'm wondering if we've got 2 driveways or 1 driveway in the built condition.
Mm.
Well, I mean, in the build condition, they're adjacent to each other. The improvement that we're doing is as explained by Deb Keller. So, I mean, all portions of it would be used. I'm not sure what you mean by crossing, and if I'm being obtuse, I apologize.
Well,
I think I know. Yeah, I think I know.
Go ahead,
what
Mr.
you're- Mr. Mullen, and I will check into that. Right now, the curb cut is open to include our driveway up to 728 as well as 736. So that should be clarified. I'll coordinate with the traffic engineer for how best to approach that.
And just one quick sec, and I appreciate those questions, Mr. Mullen, but Deb just reminded me that I forgot to say that we do have a traffic report that was submitted. I had spoken with Judy Barrett and I believe Tim Chalwinski that we felt that since there is in all likelihood going to be peer review, including of the traffic report, that we weren't presenting that tonight. It is with our application, but we thought that it would make more sense to have, as there has typically been in the Milton hearings, a night that is dedicated to the traffic report when your consultant could be there as well. So I apologize, I hadn't mentioned that earlier, and both Deborah and our traffic consultant can address the points that have just been asked. And myself with documentation, I'll get you those deeds and right-of-way documents.
Thank you. One more question. Is the access road going to be used in the back?
No.
Who uses that?
I believe that is access to the transfer station.
Okay.
I hop back to the cover page. I think you can get a better perspective here. So you have the golf course.
Yeah. So so there'll be a fence along that line. Is that what the treatment is?
We haven't currently proposed a fence on the back of the building here, but we don't have any curb cuts or anything entering to the access road.
Okay, thank you. No further questions right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Gray, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Sure, a few. I'm not sure whether this is the time to ask them or whether it will be on a later hearing. But well, sticking with let me ask this question: the plan that plan is showing that there's a portion of the right of way is not being used. Is that there's a 12-foot portion that you're not planning on using, just north of 736?
You're speaking of this portion, right?
Correct. That's what I'm talking about. What can you
So
talk about what that is?
Deb, it might be better to highlight in different color the right of way so we could see it in our next meeting. But there's a
Sure.
12-foot portion on the 736 property that we're not using, correct?
But would you have the right to use it if you wish?
I believe so, yes, yes. And we could
Okay.
get the documentation showing the right of way.
Yeah, I mean, and the plan that you've submitted shows that that right of way goes extremely close to the existing dwelling of 736, wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so are you, okay. Well,
Our access for our project, the
Yeah.
18 feet of roadway is exclusive for our access. We're not utilizing our proposed design is to use the 12 feet on the 736
But
property.
if in the, thank you, if in the course of 5 or 6 years from now, when things are running, you decide that you need it, you would have the right to be able to use that, correct?
As far as I understand, yes.
Yeah, okay. Again, maybe this isn't the right hearing to talk about it, but I'm curious about the topography of the lot. Showed that it was, I mean, if I was looking at the contour lines on one of the other plans, showed it pretty hilly. Can you talk about how much fill is coming in, what's being cut? Is this an appropriate time to ask that question?
Sure, so we're in the process of doing a cut and fill in ledge analysis, but it's approximately 1,000 cubic yards of ledge that needs to be removed at
Of
the
ledge.
outcrop.
So not
Ledge,
just dirt, you're gonna actually have to take out stone.
Yeah, we would hammer. No, we would not blast. It would be just all hammering method
Okay,
of pneumatic hammer on an excavator.
yeah,
So we would hammer. We need to hammer pretty much for the outcrop and for
Yep.
utilities to connection utilities down the access road.
what type of stone is it, out of curiosity?
It's granite.
Granite,
Mhm.
of course.
Unfortunately, I have a lot of experience with this.
Yeah.
Doing a project in the nearby.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
say point of information simply in that in addition to being a developer and the developer of this property, Mr. Celebrity is a very experienced site contractor with his own equipment and familiar with these things, just so you all know.
That's super helpful. I'm glad to hear it because it seems like a challenging, well, at least to me, it's a challenging site. All right.
We designed and worked with the contours as best as we can. And Deb elaborated a little bit with designing the basement of the garage into the lower contours of the southern part of the site,
Yep.
so that to limit the amount of ledge removal and
Okay.
so that we wouldn't have to remove as much.
I'll maybe that's enough for now. I'm curious about where trucks making deliveries and trucks for loading and unloading of people moving in and out are going to be loading and offloading. I know you put up the parking stuff, which is what made me think about it.
Right.
Mhm.
And Deb, you have a traffic management and construction plan, I think, showing stockpiles and
We
construction.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize. I kind of sifted through that. So the goal
Right,
here
yeah.
would be that we would maintain the front portion of the driveway and have a construction entrance here during the larger portion of the development, stockpiling over on this corner of the site while the building was being constructed. And I would agree, it's a tight site, so it will need thought into the construction process.
All right, thank you. I was talking more about operating the building, but maybe the night to talk about that is when we present the traffic plan.
Sure.
All right, with that in mind, I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. I don't have any questions, but the issues raised by Mr. Mullen and Mr. Gray are also some of the issues that were raised in the two comments that we received from the public. The challenges I see going forward with these hearings are going to be the driveway, other access issues, emergency access, and as Mr. Gray said, once the building is built, trash truck access and deliveries and things like that, as well as a construction plan and how the ledge will be removed and the equipment will be brought onto the site. I think those are all going to be issues that are going to be discussed in this hearing. So Peter, if you could be prepared in the next few hearings to have that information, I think that would help these hearings go a lot more smoothly.
Absolutely. And it's helpful to have it, up front at the first hearing. So thank you all.
Sure.
Excuse me,
Uh,
Mike, Tim Zawinski has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Hi, Mike. First of all, I just wanted to say, I think is Andrew Zalewski the architect? I think I saw him in the attendees
Yes.
list. So if you wanted to maybe backtrack and be able to have him talk about the design in a little more detail. But the other thing I wanted to mention as it relates to scheduling of hearings, the next scheduled hearing we have for this project is March 23rd. I had drawn up with John Leonard and Frank O'Brien, Mike, before you were appointed to the chair of this panel, a kind of a schedule for all 3 of the 40Bs that are happening on Wednesday nights. And we had talked about doing a sort of a design focused meeting for the second hearing, where both the proponent's designer could kind of go in a little more detail about the design of the building, and we could have our excuse me, my little guy didn't want to get out of the bath. Sorry about that. And we could have Cliff Bomer, the board's peer reviewer, present his comments on the project. I say all of that to say that Cliff is not available on March 23rd. So my suggestion would be that we do a sort of a traffic and civil engineering focused meeting for the next hearing to keep that kind of pattern of kind of topic-based meetings, and then have a design meeting for the third hearing, which would be, I believe, March 30th. No, not March 30th. It would be in April sometime. Sorry.
Right. I think that sounds reasonable, Tim. Mr. Mullen and Mr. Gray, do you have any objection to that?
No,
No,
That-
no objection.
from the
Peter,
applicant.
how about you?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
So
all right,
I'll work with Judy and the peer reviewers to get that set up.
Thank you, Tim. Anything you need from us, just let me know. I'm going to open this up to the public for questions. I'll mention to those who are in the public that this is the first hearing of what will be many, and we will get into the specifics in a lot more detail. But to the extent you have any questions about what's been discussed tonight, now would be the appropriate time to raise them. And I gather there are a lot of people in the audience, so if you could keep your questions as concise as you can, it would help us in answering them. So I don't know, Deb, does anybody have their hand raised?
John Driscoll just did. I'm not sure if he's going to default to Marion, but I'm going to allow to talk anyway and see what's.
Is Marion on the call?
Marion is here. She's a panelist, and she is going to speak now, as long as I can find her again. Where'd you go, Marion? Oh, here you are. Oh. Okay, Marion.
If John Driscoll wants to say something, I'm happy to let him speak, have him speak. I had a few comments. I have a couple questions. So why don't I go ahead with my couple of questions and then see what else John might want to bring up. I'm here representing John and Mary Driscoll. They live at 718 Randolph Ave. You've already made mention of their property, which is on one side of this right-of-way that we've been discussing. And I have sent a letter to the board with a number of questions and comments, which was alluded to by Peter Freeman. So I expect we'll be having more discussion about some of those issues. I wondered if the engineer could tell us how much lower the parking lot is than the grade of the Driscoll property. I'm not really great at reading these plans. She said it's slightly lower. I'd like to know how much lower it is.
Deb Keller. So the Driscoll's property on average is around 128, 130 for an elevation around the home. And the high point is the elbow in the parking lot, which is at 125.5 on average. I think the high curb on the side here where my little hand is next to the dumpster is 25.6 or 0.7. So you're looking at about a 4-foot grade change at the shallowest. As the driveway drops in both directions, you'd have a higher grade change.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But
So
it
I don't
may,
want- Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to ask you if we should move on to Mr. Driscoll or if you had any more questions.
Yeah, I'd like to move on to Mr. Driscoll and let him speak. I can always make more comments, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm John Driscoll. I've lived at this residence for at least 29 years. And I did it over like 15 years ago. I did the saw line right down the front. And it's very extensive ledge and it was quite costly. And all three houses use this lane. It's not a road, it's a lane. And I maintain it, I plow it, I fill the holes. This man that wants to develop this has not helped out one bit with maintaining this lane. And he's showing up, he wants to put a container right at the corner of my yard, and he wants to put his fill stored there while the thing's being built. I think that's very unfair, and the whole thing is very, it's unimaginable how this is gonna work, because try to pull out on the Randolph Ave takes at least 5 minutes sometimes to 7 minutes. And I can't picture another 60 to 70 cars using this lane. It's very dangerous, and it's just fantasy world. And I like listening to these people he hired to like say how great this is gonna be. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's a very dangerous road out on Randolph Ave. And this is just gonna bring more traffic, and it's just gonna be a nightmare. Thank you.
Mr. Driscoll. Bev, is anyone else looking to speak?
No. Sean Reardon. There's no other attendees, by the way.
Yeah, okay. I overestimated the interest. If that's the case, then I don't know if the applicant is prepared to have any more presentation tonight, or if we should discuss moving forward.
Marion does have her hand up again. I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Marion.
Mary.
Sorry, just one other question. Is the traffic study that the applicant says he's done, is that available on the town website?
Tim, I assume it's posted. We did submit it with the application, unless I'm remembering wrong, in which case I apologize. But do you know if it is posted, Tim?
Your application documents, I think, were in 2 PDFs, one with plans, one with everything else. So if it's included in everything else, it's in there. I can do a double check on that while you all are continuing to discuss.
And, but by the way, Marilyn, if I may, by first name, but if for some reason either it's not there, if you have trouble, just contact me directly. I'd be happy to send you anything, that I have. So if that's ever convenient, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. I will do that if it's not there.
Just for the for the record, I have it up on my screen, and I don't see it here listed in the table of contents. So, Mr. Freeman, if you could forward that to Ms. McKettrick, but also to Bev, so that she can put it on the site with the rest of the documents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Are you going to do a site walk? Are you going to schedule one?
I, for one, would like to do a site walk. I would, that's probably something we should get scheduled. Mr. Freeman, is there a time that would be convenient for your client on a Saturday morning that we could get that done?
Since Rob is here, I'll let him answer. Generally, Saturday mornings would be fine, for me, and I'm sure for our team, even though Saturday, subject to schedule, including family commitments, where it makes sense. Again, I understand the need and desire for a site visit. So over the next few weeks, Rob, do you have any particular commitments which would?
I do, but we'll just have to schedule it. We'll have to talk later about, I got to talk to my wife and family and see what we have. So, but we could schedule one on a Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to try to get it done before mid-April. So maybe if you could give us 2 or 3 Saturdays that might work for you, that'll give
Sure.
us some options.
And some times, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, thank you.
And then in answer to your previous question, no, we don't have any other presentation tonight. Certainly taken notice of all these things that have been asked, and we'll send the documents along as requested.
Thank you. Yeah, and in particular, the issue about the shared right of way and the legal aspects surrounding that. I know I'm going to have a lot of questions for, so if you could prepare some responses to what are going to be, I think, fairly obvious questions, that would be helpful. So our next hearing is March 23rd, and that's going to be, what did we discuss?
We talked about engineering and traffic.
Engineering and traffic, right. And then we'll move design to the first hearing in April.
Excuse me, John Driscoll's hand is up again.
Sure, Mr. Driscoll.
Why can't we do it this Saturday? It's gonna be 60 degrees.
Well,
And in April, I get very busy. I'm in the landscape business.
I'm not available this weekend, so we'll certainly do it for everyone's convenience. Certainly appreciate the comment.
But April's very busy for me, and this is impacting my life and my family. So I kind of want to get this thing moved along. You know what I mean?
Sure, I understand. So I'm not available this Saturday either, but Mr. Driscoll, I know that it's important for you to be there. And so to the extent Mr. Celebrity could find some time in March, I think that's probably, that sounds like it'll be helpful to Mr. Driscoll.
Sure would be.
Yeah, I certainly think from what Rob said that we can do that, and we'll certainly do it, make it happen. I think that should be fine.
Great. Okay, so I think that's probably it. Mr. Mullen and Mr. Gray, do you have anything else that you'd like to add here?
No further
No,
questions.
thank you.
Okay. All right, then I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Beverly, and we'll see you all on March 23rd.
All right. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Right.
Good night.